Hello and a very good evening to you all. Welcome to the 99th edition of TLR Shows. TLR Shows are flagship live streams
Hello and a
shows
very
brought
good
to
evening
you
to
by
all.
TLR Now, a niche coaching, training and mentoring service provider based out of Pune, India, and they are expanding to many more countries. TLR shows are one place where you get to meet amazing people who share their experience to transform lives and help upgrading their lives for a brighter future. I am Jaya Jairam, the host of today's TLR show. We're going to be speaking on life after life, a discussion about the power and the goodness of organ donation. I am someone who neither had the medical background nor the social work background to be working in this field. To be very honest, I'm an engineer and an MBA in finance. But I got attached and deeply involved with this cause because of my own personal experience. I got a second chance at life. I'm a kidney transplant recipient and I'm going 12 years strong now. I founded MOHAN Foundation's Mumbai Center, and it has been a rewarding journey as we work to ensure that many others like me can get a gift of life. So that's it enough. That's enough about me. Today we also have three other special guests who are joining us on this show, and I'm delighted to introduce to you so Sri Ram Kumar, or Sri Ram as we call him. He launched his ebook Sri Ramblings last year on National Organ Donation Day that falls on the 27th of November, and he has donated more than half of the sale proceeds to Mohan Foundation. He's a director at TLR Now Consultants Private Limited. He's a TEDx speaker, consultant, coach, trainer, facilitator, and he comes with 20 plus years of professional experience. Welcome, Sriram. Thank you and gratitude for your support.
Thank you,
The
Jaya.
next
Thank you so
guest,
much.
yeah, the next guest is someone whom I adore, a compassionate and a beautiful soul, Lalita Raghuram. She's the country director at Mohan Foundation with 27 years of experience in healthcare industry. She founded Mohan Foundation at Telangana in 2002, and she has been spearheading the vision and mission of Mohan Foundation across its length and breadth. Welcome, Lalita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair. Thanks for having me here.
Last but not the least, I'd like to introduce you to someone who is extremely passionate about the work that she takes on and inspires everyone around her. She has a great sense of humor and it's a joy to be with. Introducing to you Pallavi Kumar, who is the Executive Director at Mohan Foundation, based out of Delhi NCR. She has spent last 30 years working for NGOs and has fought for HIV orphans, comforted the specially abled, and enthused the underprivileged. With her deep passion for the cause, Pallavi founded the foundation's Delhi NCR office to create awareness on organ donation and to work closely with hospitals to set systems in place that promote organ donation. Welcome, Pallavi.
Thank you, Jaya.
I welcome you all. I'm so eager to talk to you, and I'm sure our viewers are too. Dear viewers and listeners, as you listen in, you can type in your questions in the chat box, and I'd be more than happy to share these with our guests for their responses. Okay. My first question will be to the audience here. What comes to your mind when you think of organ donation? Just take a moment. Do you get positive thoughts? It's a noble act. One can earn so much punya and be blessed life after life. What a beautiful thought, right? And perhaps some of you may get a few doubts lingering in the mind. Is there a proper system for organ donation? Will my wish to donate my organs be handled properly? Well, we will be touching upon all of these and many more during the course of our discussion. Let me now begin by first asking Sriram. Sriram, why do you think is kindness and giving such an important component of life?
Thanks, Jaya. That's a very interesting question and a powerful one too. And I would take kindness as a subset of giving and respond. In my view, taking is something that we do throughout our lives. I mean, look at it in one way. Right from the time we take the first ray of the sun in the morning till the time we absorb the first ray of the moon in the night, we are only taking. So why can't we give? And what we need to give principally is only at a base level, giving is only about four things. It is about giving people time, giving people attention, giving people knowledge, and giving people empathy or encouragement. So that's one framework of giving, and which is why it is so important. And the kind of work that you folks are doing at MOHAN Foundation, it takes giving to the next level altogether. And that's something I guess we will explore as we move along. So that's my thought in thinking, Jay.
Thanks. Thanks, Sriram. My next question will be for Lalita. So in the same context, Lalita, why is it important for each and every Indian to think and commit to the cause of organ donation?
Well, Jaya, you see, there are more than 5 lakhs people who are suffering with end stage organ failure. Imagine, put yourself in the shoes of a patient's family or a patient himself or herself. If we were suffering and we had, an end stage organ failure, whether it's a kidney failure or a liver failure or a heart failure, we would go helter skelter looking when the doctor advises transplant. What is the first thing that we will do? Where can we get an organ? That's the first question that people will have in the top of their mind. And for all those people, the only answer is a donor organ. And where will that donor organ come from? Only when everyone knows about organ donation, only when they know about organ donation and act swiftly when there is a death in the family. It's so important. It is so important for everyone to think about giving. And that is why we all have to think as, organ donation as an act of generosity. And what we are doing is actually for our own selves. Because whatever we are today is because of so many things that the society has given us. Don't you think we owe it to the others? Don't you think we owe it to the society? And organ donation is one form of giving. And we will be helping so many lakhs of people through this act of generosity.
Beautiful. Well said, Lalita. So could you also elaborate a bit on how does the organ donation process work? What can be donated? Who can donate? A few of these.
Well, what is the process of organ donation when I am alive? If I would like to pledge for organ donation, I can simply visit our website www.mohanfoundation.org and just go ahead and pledge. Click on the donor card, put your personal particulars, and download the donor card. So that's an indication that you have pledged to donate your organs after death. So you are conveying your wish to make an organ donation after death. But the most important thing, Jaya, is that we all have to inform our family. Because tomorrow I am brain dead, I am on the ventilator, I am lying in the ICU, I cannot get up and call MOHAN Foundation. So it's very important that the entire family is as enthused as I am, if not more, to make an organ donation happen. So that's the first process. The second one is, of course, when the brain death happens in the hospital, the family will either be counseled by a grief counselor for organ donation, at which time the family has to simply consent for donation. Or in the recent past, we have had the families themselves calling us and saying, we'd like to donate organs. We have an organ donation helpline. So they themselves call and we facilitate this entire process. of, from the time the consent is taken until the body is handed over, we take care of the entire process. And what are the organs that can be donated? Several. Right from our 2 eyes can give vision to 2 people, our corneas, 2 kidneys can give life to 2, our heart can beat in somebody, our liver can be split into 2 and given to a child and an adult. Our lungs, especially after COVID, we've all suffered 2 years of COVID. So our lungs, a lot of them need a lung transplant. So our lungs can give life to 2 people. Our pancreas can be donated. Our skin can be donated to burns victims. Our, bones can be donated. So many organs and tissues can be donated. So I always say God has given us one life, but we have the power to give the gift of life to at least 10 people. So that's the power we have, Jaya.
That's wonderful. The standee behind you says, save 8 lives, right?
Exactly.
That's so wonderful.
Exactly.
Thank
Yes.
you. All right. Okay, so my next question is to Pallavi. Pallavi, can you elaborate on what does MOHAN Foundation do? What does it stand for? What was the main objective of the foundation when it was first established?
All right. MOHAN, to begin with, is an acronym. It is an acronym for Multi-Organ Harvesting Aid Networks. We're talking about multiple organs. Harvesting is a term you use when you remove organs from one body for the purpose of transplantation into another. So it's a body, it's an organization that aids and supports this work. It's not a name of an individual. I, of course, keep getting invites saying Mrs. Pallavi Mohan. No, it is not the name of an individual. It is an acronym. It was set up way back in 1997 by a gentleman called Dr. Sunil Shroff, a urologist who had worked in the UK for many years. And when he came back to India, he realized that while the transplantation of human organs had been passed for about 3-4 years, really there was nothing really happening in the country where deceased donation was concerned. Also, this was a time in India when trafficking was at its peak, and internationally we were seen as a country, that all it did was sell and buy organs and exploit poor people. So every time commercialization was spoken about, India came in the conversation. So Dr. Shroff, being the brave man that he is, decided to start the foundation with the sole aim of promoting deceased organ donation. So we as an organization, we only look at deceased organ donation. We are not involved in the live transplant space. We take a 360-degree approach. Of course, creating public awareness amongst the medical fraternity, amongst a cross-section of people continues to be the main focus. But over time, we have realized public awareness is not enough. And the problem is not just with the public. We keep shirking responsibility from various other stakeholders by saying, oh, our country is not ready to give, our people are not ready to give, there are religious constraints. No, there are a whole lot of other constraints. Our government is not so aggressively invested in this cause. So health is a state subject. There are some state governments that have taken a lead and they are doing well. So we need to get more state governments involved. Our whole hospital structure, our hospitals, our doctors, they need to be a little more invested in this program. It has to be done with more passion, because it is more than just your regular work. It means perhaps staying up the whole night. It means dealing with a whole lot of family members and other people. So training is something that we do very, very strongly. Training what we call transplant coordinators. These are the people who actually speak to the family at the time of death. And believe you, that's not an enviable role. Speaking to a family when they've just been given the news of death, that's when our transplant coordinators step in and ask them to look beyond their grief and think of other people who could benefit with their one single decision, which is to donate the loved one's organs. So we train this group of people, we train critical care people, neurosurgeons, in how to identify brain death, how to certify brain death, how to maintain organs. And then we take up work in newer states. We have recently begun work in Manipur, and inshallah, before the year is ending, we should have had our first transplant in the government hospital there, thanks to collective efforts of MOHAN Foundation and the people who are funding the program, and advocacy with the government. And a very big chunk of work is with the patient community through a support group called TRIOMPH. So awareness, advocacy, training, counseling, hospital preparedness.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So, Pallavi, you briefly brought up the topic of grief counseling and the work that the transplant coordinators do. Could you please elaborate that a bit? I mean, you yourself have counseled so many families, you and Lalita. So, how difficult is it? Can you give us an insight into that? And
Yeah.
yeah,
So it it is, like I said, by no means an easy job. You are speaking to a family that's just lost a loved one, and grief is a very powerful emotion. And the sad part in this work area, is that we do not have the luxury of time. The family has been given the news, but we can't say, oh, let them take their time dealing with this grief. We'll speak to them 15 days later. We have to move in very quickly, because the organs have to be retrieved as quickly as possible for their own health. So biggest challenge is that families very often have never really spoken about organ donation. It's not something they may have heard about it. In certain cases, they may not even heard about it. But by and large, more and more families know about organ donation, but they may not have ever spoken about it in their context as a family. So here you've given them the news of death. They're grappling with that. And suddenly the people are now coming and asking them to take another very difficult decision, which perhaps was never considered before. So that's why awareness becomes so important. When people have taken this information in healthier, happier times as a concept and discussed it among family members, the decision at the time of death of a loved one becomes slightly more easy. So, like you say, how difficult or easy? Lalita will vouch for that. We have spoken to so many families, but every time you have to build up the same courage. You have to, prepare yourself anew. It's because for this family, it's a new grief. This is happening for the first time, and yes, and every family responds differently. So there's no tailor-made solution to how you can speak to this family. You can just approach with honesty and sincerity, give them all the information so that they can take an informed decision.
yeah, that's really powerful, Pallavi. Lalita, would you like to add to that?
Well, like Valerie said, it takes a lot of honesty and passion to be in this cause. When I'm training the transplant coordinators, we do transplant coordinators training program all over the country, and now we have started for the past 2 years several online training programs. The one thing that I always constantly tell our trainees is that this is not a 9 to 5 job. You cannot afford to look at your watch and when you're talking to the family, because some families say yes to donation within half an hour. Some families have taken more than 18 to 20 hours to say yes. Some people take time to understand. Some people immediately say no, and those no's have got converted to yes. So every family is unique, and believe me, Jaya, even now when I'm talking to a family, I have butterflies in my tummy, because every family is different, every situation is different. But the honesty with which you approach the subject, give them all the information, make them feel that this is an act of generosity. I am not asking for myself. This is something that you will be remembered for. This is something that you will feel gratified even 10 years down the line. That is the type of feeling we give them. When we do that, they really like it. And in addition to that, Jaya, in my case, is that because I suffered a personal tragedy. I lost my son, my 19-year-old son, in a car accident in 2004. And he was brain dead. Never expected. I was already in MOHAN Foundation. We started MOHAN Foundation in Telangana in 2001. So this happened to me. And then, several doctors said, Lalita, just because you are in this cause, you don't need to donate. But it's not that, I was looking at this job as a job. I believed in this cause because I spent 10 years prior to this in eye donation. So when it happened to me, my family, entire family said, yes, we'd like to donate. So we donated his kidneys, liver, and eyes. So we take this as an example and we tell the families when we are approaching the family, I make it a point to tell them that I am not talking in the air. I have done it myself. And I cannot bring back Swami. My son's name is Swaminarayan. So I tell them, I cannot bring back Swami. He would have been 35 years old now. I cannot bring him back. But I live with the gratification that he is alive somewhere, in so many people. So that is what you could live with. So I take that and, they feel nice about it. And then most of them do make a positive decision when that happens.
Hats off, Lalita. The first time I heard about your personal experience, I had tears in my eyes and I get goosebumps every time. So hats off to you and your family. Okay, now Pallavi, can you explain a bit about, so Lalita did briefly mention brain death. So could you elaborate, because for the benefit of viewers over here, they should know what is brain death, under what condition the organs can be donated. So if you could please elaborate on that.
So I'm so sorry, one second.
Yeah, okay.
Apologies. My apologies. So taking on from where Lalita, when she said, when families, we ask them to give, it's not just about saying, we are giving to save other lives. It's actually a privilege to be a donor. Despite Lalita's grief about having lost her son, I know that she's proud that she could have taken this decision, saved so many lives. It was a privilege that life gave her. Lalita, I'm sure you agree with me there.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I really want the audience to know that not everybody has the privilege to be an organ donor, So if you look at death, how do we understand death? Your heart stops beating and you die. That's the most common explanation of death. So if I'm talking to you right now, I have a cardiac arrest and I die. I cannot be an organ donor. I can be what you call a tissue donor. So eyes, corneas, skin, bone, heart walls, these are tissues. And in natural death, you can only be a tissue donor. For me to be an organ donor, a solid organ donor, which involves organs like kidneys and liver and heart and lungs and pancreas and intestines, which are actually life-saving organs, I have to be what is called brain dead. So, in a very simple explanation, if you've had a serious injury to the brain, so very often accident cases, and that's why so many of our donors are young donors, like Lalita's son. Unfortunately, a lot of head injuries happen in accidents, and which eventually lead to brain death, or stroke, or anything that causes swelling and bleeding inside the brain could eventually lead to brain death. If an injury happens, you're rushed to the hospital. Because your breathing is compromised, you're put on a ventilator. The doctors try and do whatever they can to control the swelling inside the brain. But if that does not happen, beyond a point, the oxygen supply to the brain is cut off and the brain dies. When the brain dies, it means the person has died. However, because the person had been put on the ventilator before all of this happened, the ventilator is still pumping the heart and the organs are still getting perforated blood, blood and oxygen. So it is a very unique condition where the person is dead, but the organs are still alive with the help of the ventilator. Not to be confused with coma, because coma, a person is still alive, may not be responding, maybe in a deep state of unconsciousness, but the person is alive. We will not be asking for organs in case of coma where the person is alive. Brain death, however, is death. It's irreversible. There's no coming back out of brain death. Once the brain dies, it's died. It's established through a series of tests by a team of 4 doctors. The tests are repeated after 6 hours. Everything is documented. It's a 100% foolproof process. And only when death is declared, the family is approached. So it's very important, people who are listening out there, that you cannot be calling us from home and saying, so and so has died, can I donate the organs? No, you can only look at tissue donation. So everybody who dies can donate their eyes, But for solid organs, you have to be what is called brain dead. I hope that made that clear, Jaya.
Yeah, absolutely. Crystal clear. Viewers, if you have any doubts, any queries, or anything that you'd like to share with us, please do post in the comments section. Friends, let me share with you all that Ms. Lalita and Mr. Raghuram were honored by CNN, IBN Real Heroes for their heartbreaking but inspirational decision. Um, so, yeah, that's hats off to them. So, Lalita, over to you now. If you could share with the audience, what are some of the common fears and myths that hold people back? Over the past 10 years or so, in your view, of course, Pallavi did mention about this, but are people more open to organ donation than what was before? So, your comments on that, please.
So, Jaya, like I mentioned earlier, I have an eye banking background. So, between 93 and 2001, I worked at the Eye Bank Association of India, spreading the message about eye donation. So, there were a lot of myths about eye donation itself at that time. And people used to think that if I donate my eyes in this Janma, I will be born without eyes, or there will be disfigurement once the eyes are donated. So the same type of myths are there in case of organ donation also. Especially when I started the MOHAN Foundation in Hyderabad in 2001, organ donation, like Pallavi said, used to be looked at as a taboo subject. And then when I talked passionately about organ donation, in fact, some of the doctors used to ask me, "Are you a recipient?" If I was a kidney recipient or something. So I used to tell them, no, but this is something that I really believe in. So there are myths which are like, they will say, if I donate my organs, the entire body will be, put in a sack and, handed over to the family. So I tell them that it's a very, very neat procedure. It's like an open heart surgery. We open from the throat until the navel. We take the heart, then the liver, then the kidneys, and now of course we take the lungs. After the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver and the kidneys, and then finally the corneas will be retrieved. This entire procedure is done in a sterile environment in the operating room, and after that it's all sutured up. This entire process takes only about 3 to 4 hours, and once the organs are retrieved and the body is neatly sutured, we clean the body and then we hand over the body to the family. Until then, our transplant coordinators are there. We pay respects to the donor and to the donor family, and we ensure in several cases, we give them free ambulance, so that even if they have to go to far off places, that we provide them with the ambulance. So this is one of the myths, Jaya. The second thing is, of course, like Pallavi said, people mistake brain death to coma. So we tell them coma is different, brain death is different. Brain death is death. In the beginning in Hyderabad, we used to get a lot of phone calls from old age homes, orphanages, saying that this lady is in the final stage. She's on oxygen, or somebody is dead. We would like to donate organs. So we have to, number one, tell them what brain death is, and then we have to tell them about organ donation. So we have this double responsibility of educating the public. The third thing is, of course, religion. People think it is against religion to make an organ donation. I have had several cases in Catholics and in some other religions also. We have had some people saying that, no, our religion doesn't agree to this. We have some Orthodox people saying that, we don't want to donate organs. We want to send him the way he came. So we tell them that no religion is against organ donation. In fact, Jaya, in 2013 in Bangalore, we organized a multi-religious leaders conference. We called it the Sant Sangama. So all the religious leaders came, and everyone unanimously endorsed organ donation. In fact, some of the religious gurus said, this is the best form of gift. One leader said, in Annadan, Godan, Bhudan, everything, you lose some amount of your reserves. In eye and organ donation, what are you losing?
Wow.
You are just burning or burying the body. Instead, that one yes, that YE yes, imagine it's so powerful. That one yes can change the life of so many patients forever. So that myth also, because of the religious leaders, everyone said yes. We have a film where all the religious leaders are talking. It's available on our website. And we constantly tell everyone that no religion is against organ donation. So these are some of the myths. And of course, money. People also think that, we buy organs and sell it to the recipients. We tell them that there is absolutely no question of money. We are guided by the Transplantation of Human Organs Act 1994. This is our Bible. We live by this Bible. We breathe this. So everything that we do is according to law, and we absolutely do not pay anything to the donor family. We do not receive anything from the recipient. In fact, I still remember in one of the hospitals in 𝗟𝗙𝗙𝗙, I went to counsel, and one family member, he took out one flap from inside the cigarette box. He wrote 2 lakhs, and then, he just put it on my table. So I said 2 lakhs, and I smiled and I said, if I give you 2 lakhs, you will go to jail. I'll also go to jail, I said. So everything that we do is about board, absolutely ethical, transparent, because we are here to establish the deceased organ donor program. There are no shortcuts to that. Everyone needs to do it thinking that they are helping people, and this is a great cause. And when I say I work for organ donation, everyone says, wow, noble cause. So that nobility has to be maintained.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lalita, for sharing that. So you would say that people are more open to organ donation than what it was 10 years back, because yeah, that's great. So Pallavi, would you now like to elaborate on, as the citizens of India, what can each and every one of us do to commit and support the cause of organ donation? What is in it for the companies? What is in it for the youth? So if you could please elaborate on that.
Okay. So I think first and foremost, it's our responsibility and duty to be aware, to become knowledgeable. Even the medical fraternity, doctors would be more forthcoming in giving information if they think the family is in a position to understand the information that's being given. So especially brain death, it's a tricky area. I mean, even for us who had been trained and all, and I first time that I saw somebody, a child, 16-year-old boy whose father I counsel, when I first went into the ICU, I saw this boy and his chest was heaving, it was going up and down, and I knew he was brain dead, and yet it was so difficult because it looks like a person who's unconscious but breathing. So if a family is not going to be able to understand this concept, beyond a point, doctors will not try to help them understand. They will wait for the heart to stop beating, which will automatically happen because a brain dead person's heart will stop beating in some time, maybe in a day's time, in a 2 days time. Sometimes it takes a longer number of days, but eventually the heart stops beating. If a family looks aware and informed and willing to engage in an intelligent conversation, the doctors will give out information that is correct, and also protects the family from spending huge amounts of money on the ventilator in the ICU when they know their patient is no more. So I think it's very important that each one of us as citizens at least understands this as a concept, as a knowledge, as information that needs to be understood. The next step is that you then decide for yourself, is this a worthwhile cause for me to be involved in? Do you think is this a logical thing? Do I post my when I stop living and when I don't need my organs anymore? is it logical to give them others to save other lives, and not just other lives, families? For me, it is a no-brainer. It is really a no-brainer. I am not there. My organs are not needed by me, and it can transform humans and their families. So that is something that each one of us now really seriously needs to begin thinking, because tomorrow it could be us, it could be someone in the family, it could be someone in the neighborhood, it could be anybody. So it's not happening to some other planet. It's humans in this country, in within our uh, area scope. So then the next step is to decide for yourself, do I want to be an organ donor? Again, it doesn't end there. We keep talking about pledging, but for me, again, pledging is no big deal. You could pledge, great. It's a great way to show that you are proud of the fact that you took the decision to donate. But as many of you have already said, I would like to reiterate that the most important step is to discuss with your family, because you won't be there when the time comes. It's your family that has to take the decision. I remember speaking to these two grown-up boys. One had come from the US, one was here, and their mother had died. She was a widow, and I was very positive that the son's coming from US and he would be more aware of brain death and organ donation. And sure enough, he was. But you know what? He kept his head down, and the brother who was with the mother, he just over and over kept saying the same thing. We never spoke to her about this. We don't know if this is what she wanted. I understand what you're saying, ma'am. If it was to me, I would have wanted to do it, but we never had this conversation. I don't know if my mother would have approved of this. So that conversation is so important, and really the bedrock of change in the area of organ donation. So yes, knowledge, decision to take whether you want to or donate your organs, and most important, a discussion with your family is what I really would want our audience to take away from this.
So, Pallavi, how difficult is it to have this conversation with the family? Some of them might find it's a cakewalk, but not everybody would think so.
So I don't know why there is this widespread belief that if you speak about death, you will die tomorrow. I mean, if that was the logic, all three of us 20 years ago, Lalita would have been dead good 15, 16 years ago. I would have been dead good 12 years ago. And talking about death does not accelerate the process, in fact, we all know, and it's really no use my saying it. It's the only surety, it's the only inevitability, only reality, that we will all die. Some of us will unfortunately die sooner, some of us will die much later, but we will all die. We need to decide now, while we are alive, what we want to do post that death, which will eventually happen. And a lot of us do not get the opportunity to do good while we're alive, because we are busy in our lives, not that because we don't want to do good. We are, of course, privileged that we were put in these roles where we could contribute to some good in the, it's a privilege, I say always, we're the lucky ones. But many people do not get that opportunity because life, goes by. They're in corporate jobs, they have busy lives, and perhaps do not get the opportunity to do good while they're alive. But here is an opportunity to do good while you're not when you're not there. Why won't you not grab that opportunity? Why would anybody not grab that opportunity?
Sure, sure. Thanks, Pallavi. So, yes, Lalita, yes, please.
Jay, talking about conversation, I also say that, you talk about insurance, life insurance. All of us talk about life insurance. When we take premium policies, we talk about life insurance. That means you are talking about death. You want to secure your family's future. At that time, you are talking about death. So I think at the same time, we have to talk about organ donation, because family is important for us. We think, it's okay to talk about death. But if we, in the same breath, also talk about organ donation, imagine it becomes so much more easy, because here it's an act of giving. So we are perhaps not thinking about that. But if all of us generously think about this in the same breath when you're talking about life insurance, I think we would have done a lot of good. The second thing that I also want to touch upon is, Pallavi, do you want to talk about driver's license? That's another thing, not just about pledging, but also about driver's license. I'd like you to please say that.
Yeah, Lalita. So, Jaya, there are various ways one can start conversations at home. People who are hearing this show can go back and say, hey, listen, I attended this show and this is what they were talking about. Articles keep coming in the newspaper. Those are great ways to start conversations. What Alitha is saying. So now Government of India took a very progressive step 2 years ago, where now when you go to apply for your driving license, you will be asked, do you want to be an organ donor or not? And both your consent and your dissent will be recorded in the driving license. So that's again a great way to start conversation. So, but you will only start a conversation if you are convinced in your mind, So it's like a big joke in the house. My daughter says, oh God, your ghost will haunt me if I don't donate whatever I could when you die. So you have to be able to speak with that much conviction about the fact that this is important to you. So there are various conversation starters, but that conviction to start that conversation has to lie within you, which comes from information, which comes from knowledge, and which comes from meeting inspiring people like Lalita, who walk the talk.
Absolutely. Wow. This is one. I'm enjoying this discussion. All right. So, either Lalita or Pallavi, can you all also touch upon why should corporates promote organ donation, and why is this so important?
Lalita?
I will go and then you can also add, Pallavi. So one of the things that we all the time hear from the corporates, I get a lot of phone calls saying that, we have a patient who is waiting for kidney or a liver. Can you do something about it, etc. So at that time, we tell them that, it's not so easy as you think. It's important that everyone gets to know about the process. Everyone gets to know about organ donation itself, the goodness of doing it, and why it is important to do it in a timely fashion. All of this comes through education. So when I tell them that, you have this patient, and like this, we have so many people walking into our office saying, we just got married last year. I had a fashion designer. She came into our office and she said, Madam, I'm getting married next month and my kidneys have failed. I don't know if I can get married at all or not. So there are desperate patients like her. So corporates are the places, where there are large number of people working. So when the company itself takes that initiative to spread the message about organ donation, all of its employees will automatically fall in line. And what we normally do is to have the head of the organization, say, I support organ donation. I am not even asking them to pledge for organ donation. Just say, I support organ donation. When they say that, all of them are likely to say yes to organ donation. We had Tech Mahindra CEO say, he said, I love this cause. I'd like to spread this message about organ donation. He organized a talk show for us. 1,000 people attended. So when the head of the organization takes it upon themselves, it becomes easy. And for organizations such as ours to be able to address 1,000 people, only corporates can do. They have the power to make things happen. So initially, Jaya, I'd like to say that in 2002-03, I used to, go to companies and say, I'd like to, talk about organ donation. Very few people used to say yes to it. But now I can tell you, there are a lot of people, they themselves call and say, we have 7 offices all over the country. We'd like you to talk about organ donation. In all the 7 offices, are you able to do that? So that the scenario has pretty much changed. So that's a very positive thing that has happened.
Yeah. Thanks, Lalita.
Yeah.
Pallavi, would you also like to share a bit on how employee engagement is possible through such engagements? Employee volunteering is possible.
Yeah. So we devised a very unique program. We call it the Ambassador Program, where we have a short online course where people can actually undergo training to be ambassadors for organ donation. So we don't need to be going out and talking. Once they have undergone that training, they can then address their other employees and other people and outsiders, the general public. So we have received tremendous response to that program, and many companies have been engaging with us on the ambassadors program to get their employees involved, because it's not just becoming aware. Then you've been given a tool, a powerful tool to then create change, and that's really what many companies look at. Apart from awareness, companies have been supporting us. We've been privileged to have some really, really visionary supporters. I was earlier talking about the Manipur program. SBI Foundation has been supporting us, and we could take up a new state just because we had CSR funding from somewhere, because governments only bring in when they come in when they see changes. So there are so many states that need work, that need to start this program, and we can only go if we have some financial support. So that's another thing I wanted to bring in, Jaya.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that out, Pallavi. Lalita, I'm going to ask you the next question. So, if there are any kidney failure patients or caregivers or liver failure patients, what is the process? How can they, what options do they have? Can you please elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so there we have a program called TRIOMPH. So Transplant Recipients of India, meant to provide hope. So TRIOMPH is a patient-centric initiative. All that we have done so far was aimed at public, at hospitals, for organ donation to happen. TRIOMPH is one vertical where we focus on patients and caregivers. So when there is a kidney failure or a liver failure or a heart failure, the patients go through so much turmoil. It's like a bolt out of the blue. They don't even know it happens so suddenly. So at that time, they need a lot of support. Family support, of course, is important, but outside the family, there's a lot of support that is required. It's not you alone. There are several other patients who have gone through that. So those patients have come together in TRIOMPH. All of them share their journey. All of them share information about what they have gone through. What are the do's and don'ts? What is that they eat? In TRIOMPH, how to stay fit, what to eat, what not to eat, medication. All these things are, the support is provided through TRIOMPH. And the caregivers, because caregivers, more than the patients, go through a lot. For them, it's an emotional roller coaster. They have to take care of themselves. They have to take care of their patient, their family member who is suffering. So they are also given information. So we do a lot of meetings for them. Thanks to COVID, we've been able to do online programs, several online programs for the patients and the caregivers. We also have been doing work in the area of prevention. How to prevent kidney failure, how to prevent kidney diseases, looking at different aspects of how we can prevent kidney diseases. So these are all things we have been doing under TRIOMPH. And the other thing that we started last year is Anudan. Anudan is a program where we financially support transplant patients. We have supported several children for kidney transplants and liver transplants, several adults also for part funded kidney transplants and liver transplants. So this is something that has been possible only because of the generosity of our donors. They opened up their heart and very spontaneously have donated to this cause, and that is how we have been able to help so many patients. Jaya, from Hyderabad, we have this patient Aradhya, 7-year-old Aradhya. She had a liver failure, and her father was working for a very small company, earning 10,000 rupees per month. And he just approached us We did crowdfunding. We raised the money. And now Aradhya's liver transplant is done more than 6-7 months ago. She's doing well and she looks so
Delightful
nice.
child. It's a delightful
Yes.
child.
I mean, imagine you feel so nice when we are able to help such patients. This life is worth living, is what we feel, when we look at such patients where, from disease, from suffering, they're back to life. So when they get a transplant, it's not just the patient that is back to life, the entire family is happy. That is what you do. You put the entire family back on track. So that
Wonderful.
is the power of Anudan.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Lalita. Sriram, I'm going to bring you in now. So, Sriram, can you share as to how did you get associated with organ donation and Mohan Foundation? And can you also speak a bit about the book that you have written recently?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think at the outset, Pallavi and Lalita, thank you so much. It's been so inspiring listening to both of you talk about uh, the entire process of organ donation, the larger context of it. So, coming back to your question, Jaya, my association with the concept of organ donation, uh, I think probably started roughly about, I think, 6 or 7 years back when I signed up for organ donation as a donor. So I'd fill up one of those donor cards. At that time, it was not online, it was still one of those paper forms. That's when I signed up. And yes, Pallavi, it is with the consent of the family, the discussion with the family. So that is also ticked off.
Good.
So that was one. That was how the entire process began. And then there was this for the past probably 3.5 years, I've been reflecting a lot, and I found if I can call it an avenue to share or vent my reflections through writing. And I started doing that, and I also realized that I can't spend too much of time writing elaborate stuff. So I said, why don't I do it in small bits? And I started writing and sharing one quote every day. Basically, my own view of how life is, how people are, how things are, how we perceive them, etc. And this was the process that started online. I started sharing it with people, and it found a bit of acceptance. And I enjoyed the process. Let me be candid about that. Both the process of writing and also the attention it gave. Let me be candid. So this was happening parallelly, and then there was this thought in the mind that why don't I put these together in the form of a book? And after much deliberation, I decided I will bring it out as an ebook. So that's how the second part of the piece fell into place, which is bringing it out as an ebook. And then I was very sure that when I bring this book out, it has to be associated with some cause. That I was clear even before writing the book, I will be honest. And it took me almost a year reaching out to a lot of institutions on how we could associate. I had extensive discussions with the powers that be there, but we could not progress for a variety of reasons. There were there were regulations at their end, or we could not see the sync happen in few cases. And if you recollect, we spoke somewhere in the July August time frame last year. So I literally had exhausted. I had made this Chotasa list where I had put down all names, and it was the last name. Mohan Foundation was the last name. So
Last but not the least.
yeah, so I crossed all my fingers, toes, and I said, "Chalo, Jaya se baat karte hain, kya hota hai?" And luckily it came through. And I once I spoke to you, I read up about the kind of work that you folks do. Then I had a chance to talk to Lalita, Pallavi, and I realized it brought in a lot of elements that I personally I'm passionate about. It's about educating people. There's a hell of a lot of training that needs to be involved in getting people ready to, bring the relevant stakeholders together. There is ongoing support. So these are dimensions that I very strongly believe in. And I guess it was providence that everything fell through. And I was able to put this book together and do my bit for the, for the larger purpose that Mohan Foundation is associated with. It's satisfying. It's something I talk about proudly. And it's something people also ask me, "Acha, okay, so what is organ donation?" I need to probably do that training, that Pallavi spoke about, so
We're
that
signing you up immediately.
yeah, please, that should, I guess, help me answer far more confidently.
It will.
So, but it's been a pleasure and a privilege, yeah, being associated with Mohan Foundation in whatever small capacity I can, and I do
Equally our
hope this
pleasure.
continues.
Equally.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sriram. It means a lot for us. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of this show. I'm going to quickly tell you one chutkula that Pallavi is not as soft-hearted as she appears. She has remarkable passion and grit, and the proof is when she braved her way up to conquer Everest Base Camp in 2018 and Mount Kilimanjaro in 2019 with a singular aim of promoting organ donation. Pallavi, can you please just very quickly share about that?
Mount, climbing mountains is a passion. Organ donation is a passion. I seemed like a perfect opportunity to bring it together. And yes, the fact that I'm going to be going and putting up that little flag on top saying that this is my tribute to organ donor is really something that eggs me on. In fact, I didn't do so well at Kilimanjaro. Towards the last 100 meters, I started getting altitude sickness. And all of them, or the people who climbed with me, they joke that she was falling apart, but all she wanted to do was to go and put the jhanda on top. And it said it's my tribute to the highest tribute to organ donors, and thankfully I crawled my way up. But yes, and
Lovely, lovely. Thanks, Pallavi. All right, so before we end this show, very briefly, one parting message that each of you would like to give. Lalita.
One of the things that I did not mention is about our organ donation helpline, Jaya. So I thought quickly to mention about that because we get a lot of phone calls. The National Organ Donation Helpline is addressed in 8 languages, and we get phone calls from literally all over the world. The number is 1-800-103-7100. 1-800-103-7100. The number is scrolling. So remember to call in case you have any questions about organ donation. A lot of them call us up saying that, we want an A positive kidney or a heart, etc. That is from the patient's family side. On the other hand, a lot of them also ask us about which are the transplant centers in Telangana or which are the transplant centers, a liver transplant center in Hyderabad. So all information is available on the website. So we send them that information. And the other thing is also about organ donation itself. People would like to sign up for organ donation. So they, ask us how to go about with that. So this is something that works around the clock. So do call us in case you have any questions. And remember, I always say this and I want to say this again. When I'm alive, I'm Mrs. Lalita Raghuram. Everyone calls me Lalita Raghuram. But when I'm dead and gone, it is body. That's the hard reality. When are you going to dispose the body? When is the funeral going to take place? So the nomenclature changes. So all of us are aware of this. So take one moment, just one moment to think about this reality and take this first step of saying yes to organ donation and talk to your family. It's not so difficult as you think it is. It's very, very easy. Just put your mind on it and say it with all conviction that I am going to help so many people when I'm leaving this world. It's as easy as that. Just say yes to organ donation with all conviction. And that
Yes,
is going to leave a legacy, a lasting legacy that you will all be proud of. That is what makes us all feel proud of, doing this work. And I'm sure each one of you listeners would like to be proud of what you are doing. So be a proud organ donor, leave a legacy.
wonderful. I say yes to it. So I hope our viewers are also saying yes to it.
Absolutely.
Pallavi?
I would like to share with the audience one of the messages that goes on one of our t-shirts. It's your organs, not your Wi-Fi password. Share it.
Thank you, Pallavi. Sriram, your
Pallavi.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say, Jaya, is for the people who are listening in, giving is something that is wonderful. So please look at organ donation as something that each one of us can do. If need be, look for the education around that, seek information around that. Lalita spoke about a helpline, there is a website. So there are people who are willing to listen to you, clarify your doubts. The initial step, I think, would be to sign up, and in our own way we can propagate that message in our discussions in person. Thankfully, they're begun again online. Something as simple as WhatsApp groups that we are part of, or groups that we are part of in social media. I think all of us can help spread the message. And that is something that I would request everyone to do.
All right. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sriram. With that, thank you, Lalita, Pallavi, and Sriram for sharing your time and insights. It was a pleasure hosting you. Thank you, audience, for your participation and time. I'm sure we are all taking back a lot with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the 99th edition of TLR Shows. On the 20th of March, TLR Shows will be streaming their 100th edition, and I'm told that will be one of a kind. So do watch out for the announcements about the 100th show on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, and Pinterest. And do follow TLR now on social media too. Thanks again for your time. Wishing you all a very happy Holi. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you, Jaya. Thank you, Ram.
Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.